Welcome to the Mind Body Business Show. The 3 keys to your success is just moments away. Here's your host, Brian Kelly.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mind Body Business Show. Boy, oh boy, goodness gracious, oh my. We have another amazing guest expert on tonight. I cannot wait to introduce you to him. Amazing young man who comes by way of the land down under. That's right, Australia. Some years ago, he made that big leap and moved to the United States, and we are blessed to have him here, and can't wait to introduce him to you. In the meantime, very briefly, the Mind Body Business Show. What is that all about? Well, it's about the 3 pillars of success that I like to call, and I found out these 3 pillars, they're really patterns that I noticed in very successful people. So over the past decade or so, I began studying just successful people. What made them successful? What was it that, they have the same things we have, that they have access to everything we do. What makes them more successful than anyone else? And I found in studying over a decade that 3 areas kept trickling to the top patterns. And of course, you can guess what those are. Mind is mindset. And that is about having a very powerful and, more importantly, flexible mindset. Each and every successful person to a person that I studied has this. And body, that means taking care of yourself, literally, your physical body, by exercising regularly and by intaking high nutrition food and drink. And then there's business. Now, business is multifaceted. There are so many skill sets that are involved in a thriving, successful business, like sales, marketing, team building, systematizing, leadership. The good news is that you don't have to master every single one of those skills because of that last one that I mentioned, leadership. Once you have mastered the skill of leadership, you can then delegate to other people who have those skill sets that you might lack in. Because let's face it, if you were to try to do all of them and master them all on your own, it could take literally more than a lifetime to do so. And so those are the 3 qualities of highly successful people. And on that note, one of the other high qualities of highly successful people is, to a person, I found they're also very avid readers. And to that end, I'd like to switch over to a brief segment I like to affectionately call Bookmarks.
Bookmarks. Born to read. Bookmarks. Ready, steady, read. Bookmarks. Brought to you by reachyourpeaklibrary.com.
Yes, and there you see it, reachyourpeaklibrary.com. And by the way, for those of you watching live and even those of you watching afterward, even listening, it's very important that you stay with us here on the show while we are talking, because if you don't resist that temptation to run off and open up a browser tab and look at these resources on your own, if you don't resist that temptation, then you might miss something super valuable that our guest expert, Goossens, has for you. And I would really hate for that to happen. I've seen this happen multiple times while on physical stage, speaking from stage. And we're about to get to the part that probably will change most people's lives. And I see one or more person get up to go to the restroom. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they just missed out on probably the most incredible part of the presentation. And with Reed, I have no idea when it's coming, but I'll guarantee you it's coming, and it's coming multiple times. It happens every single show. Value, and life-changing value at that. So stay with us. Instead of running off and clicking on things and typing in URLs, bring out that old-fashioned thing. You remember that thing? It's called a piece of paper. And the thing that goes with that, this one might really shock you, but remember these? It's called a pen, a writing instrument, or a pencil. And of course, I'm having fun with that, but definitely write notes, take notes, and stay with us. Just write down the notes and don't run off to some faraway land on the internet and get too bogged down with trying to multitask. So reachyourpeaklibrary.com is something I had developed with you in mind. And I do not kid when I say that. It is you, the business person, the entrepreneur that is looking to achieve greater success, no matter where you are today in your walk, is to help you to achieve greater success. And I only started reading very avidly about 10 years ago, closer to 7, actually. I waited way too long to begin reading. But the good news is I began reading and reading voraciously. And so what I did is I compiled a list of books on this website. There's 40 on this site. There are far many more that I need to update it with. This is a good start. These are all books I have personally read. And every one of them, to a book, has had a profound impact on me, either in business or in personal life. And so that's why I assembled them here. So now for you, there's less guessing. You may have read many, maybe all of these. Some of you may have read all of these. The odds are there will be one or two that you haven't. And so for some of you that haven't really started reading seriously, this is a great spot to start, because now you can go to a spot where you know that these books have been personally vetted by at least one other successful entrepreneur, and there's less guessing involved. The thing about success is it's a lot about certainty. The more certainty you can have about going forward with something, the more you can put into it and the faster you can achieve those successful results. So I wanted to share that. That's a gift to you. You just click those buttons. They go to Amazon for you to purchase the books. Those are just there for you to have a resource, your own online library, compliments of my company, Reach Your Peak. And speaking of peak, it's time to bring on the one, the only, the amazing. All right, we'll do it in a minute. Here he comes.
It's time for the Guest Expert Spotlight. Savvy, skillful, professional, adept, trained, big league, qualified.
And there he is, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Mr. Reed Goossens. How are you doing, Reed?
G'day, mate. Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, man, I love it. Good day, mate. Here we go, right off the top. He is pulling out the big guns with the beautiful Australian accent. I love it. I love it. I love it. So we're going to bring you on and formally introduce you in just a moment, Reed. I apologize, but I want to back up for 1 second and remind everyone that if they stay on live to the very end, we will show you a way to win a 5-night stay at a 5-star luxury resort. Compliments of our wonderful sponsors. You see them up there in the corner, the Big Insider Secrets. And this is an amazing vacation stay, because when you go, you are not going to be pulled aside and thrown into a room for half a day listening to a timeshare pitch. It is not that. It is 100% a vacation stay, and you are treated no different than a full paying guest. So I can't wait to give that out. We do this every single show. And now, without further ado, let's bring this gentleman on with respect and everything that he deserves. In 2012, Reed Goossens quit his job in Australia and moved halfway across the globe to the United States to change his life and to chase a dream. With limited funds, no investing experience, and no credit, Reed went from purchasing a small duplex to growing his own real estate investing firm, Wildhorn Capital. I love these stories. Reed now syndicates large multi-million-dollar deals across the U.S., and he has also achieved financial freedom and has taken control of life. And with that, I want to formally, officially introduce Mr. Reed Goossens again.
G'day, mate. We're back for the second time.
It's like a circle we just keep falling around in. So I love all of this about your story. My gosh. I mean, here's what a perfect story for those of us that are native to the United States, that have lived here our whole lives. Now we have this gentleman that comes from across the pond, a big pond, with literally nothing. You could tell by the intro. He had nothing, and he made it happen. He's living the dream. He's financially stable. He's doing it. He's done it. And I love this because it just provides so much hope for everyone else who has not yet achieved financial stability and security. And so, Reed, that's a phenomenal bio. It gets us a great idea of where you come from, what you've done, kind of on the physical level. And what I like to do is dive straight into the mind. That big, beautiful brain of yours. I want to find out what it is that makes you and has made you as successful as you've become, which is very successful in my mind and in many minds. And that's a very subjective topic in its own right. But what I wanted to find out, Reed, is when you get up in the morning, being an entrepreneur isn't always easy every single day. There are things that we have to deal with. And to that end, it's vital to have a very solid and strong drive to be driven. And for you, Reed, when you get up and you realize the day's ahead of you, and maybe it's a good day, maybe it's not going to be, maybe you got to deal with some stuff in the beginning. But what is it for you that goes through your mind that you say, all right, another day, I can't wait to get at it? And what motivates you to the core?
I think what motivates me to the core is or at least for a lot of my decisions in the last 10 years has been this fear of regret, right? Giving things a crack, giving things a go, learning to take a bet on yourself is definitely something that is innate to who I am, is innate to the person that I've become, and also the entrepreneur that I've become. And so being comfortable with backing yourself and getting up in the morning and going, you've got this. You might not have the answers to where you want to go or the doors you want to open, but the fact is, you know that you can do it. And that's the thing that my whole shtick is when I'm on these shows, is that I want to encourage people to know that they've got it within themselves to go off and be whoever they want to be. Give the world, the world is literally your oyster. And, for my story is if some Aussie guy can come halfway across the world and achieve financial freedom by buying US real estate with, you listed all the things that I had against me when I first started here, then so can you. And the only difference is the mindset. And something that's so powerful within so many people who are successful is that willingness to take a leap of faith and the willingness to back themselves, not knowing what the result may be, but be okay with that. If you have to come back and if you ultimately do fail, then you come back and you rest on your laurels and you go back to whatever you were doing before. So that's really what gets me going in the morning, that the fact that I get to live my life the way I want to live it. It's been a lot of hard work getting to this point, but also the fact that I don't ever want to wake up when I'm 70 years of age and go, geez, I wish I'd given that a go, or I wish I'd given that a crack, because regret, the fear of regret is quite strong within me. So, yeah.
Absolutely, man. That's fantastic. And you said so many things in that one segment right there about, that you worked very hard. And that's one point I want to really impart on everyone watching, that it takes diligence, it takes motivation, it takes drive, everything that Reed was talking about, that you've got to have all of these things, and you've got to have perseverance above and beyond. And man, I'll tell you, there are times. Have you ever felt like quitting, Reed, and just saying,
of course. Like, so I'll give you a story if you want about perseverance. Like, the first time I moved to the United States, I didn't have a job, right? I needed to get. I was here on a holiday visa, and there was a visa available for Australians, but I had to go and get an actual job. And so what I did was I wrote down all the engineering companies in New York City that I thought had less than 50 people, because less than 50 people means they wouldn't have HR. And that means that if HR, there'd be those gatekeepers, they'd see my resume and say, oh, he wasn't educated here in the United States, in the bin. And so I went and knocked on all these doors until someone said yes. And it was so many no. But that perseverance until someone says yes. And that old adage that Tony Robbins says, you change your story, you change your life. And I knew that one yes was going to get me and open that door to now living in the United States. And that is, that's all you got to rely on. You know that every time you have a no in your life, it's one step closer to having a yes. So, yeah.
Oh, man, I'm glad you brought that up. The author of Go for No, and her name escapes me, co-author, is going to be on the show coming up in August. I can't wait. Similar topic. And that's the thing that a lot of people, I hope, understand to the core, that, there's so many opportunities out there today, phenomenal, wonderful opportunities. And oftentimes people will mistake these as get-rich-quick opportunities. And there really is no such thing that I've found that satisfies that.
No,
I just haven't.
No.
And if you are told that there's something like that, the odds are you'll be wasting your time with that. So just wanted to impart upon you that it's all about working hard, finding a mentor or coach, maybe Reed or someone like him that's very successful, that will take you by the hand and show you the ropes, and know that this is a journey. It's not a sprint. It's going to take some time.
Exactly.
And it's just a wonderful journey. It's so amazing that after going through all of these peaks and valleys, Reed, isn't it fulfilling when you've reached that point where you finally say, I think I made it to what I was looking for, and now how much higher can I go?
Right. Well, it's, the whole thing that we're in society, we want achieve things quickly. You spoke about the get rich quick schemes. Anything that's worth building will take time. I know when I was first getting involved in real estate investing, I had a full-time job. I was trying to have this side hustle. I couldn't actually leave my full-time job until I actually married my wife, who so I could get a green card. But there was times, there was long weeks, long dark days where you spoke about pillars earlier on in the introduction, and where like I was prioritizing my business over, say, my relationships with my wife or my health. And looking back, it's like I'm not necessarily glad I did it, but I made some mistakes along the way. There were some very tough times, like huge hours every single week, and they're still massive today. But to get to that point where I can quit my day job and then go and be my own boss was really the ultimate goal, the ultimate North Star for the last 10 years. But the true value is that you can really overestimate what you can achieve in a year, but you can underestimate what you can achieve in a decade. And I remember picking up the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. You speaking of books earlier on your library, the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. If any of your listeners haven't read it, definitely pick that one up. And that changed my life so much in terms of, and that was back in 2009. And it set me on this course where I am today. Now, I had no idea a decade later I'd be sitting on a show talking to you about my quote unquote success. But that's the beauty of what life is. It's the beauty of that, the 10 years, the last 10 years have been so freaking awesome. The next 10 years are going to be even better because I know that, I can do it and I can back myself. So yeah, I've just been loving the journey. And that's sometimes what we forget, that the journey that you go embark on, it will take time. It will be hard. But if you don't have that right mindset on the front to know that it might take 5, 10, 15 years to build something that you can be proud of, you can have financial freedom, you can have your own time freedom, then you're gonna, like, it gets hard. When the days do get hard, you got to know that you got to have that resolve, that you got to keep on going, because it's going to take a longer period of time than maybe what you initially set out to do. So yeah.
And one thing I found key to doing that, to sustaining, to persevering, is to have a very solid why.
Right.
To something that you would basically crawl over broken glass for a mile, and you would do it to the end because of that why is so strong that no matter what knocks you back, you're going to keep forging ahead. And I can't stress enough the importance of that, because as an entrepreneur, you face many valleys
every day,
the peaks. And there, like Reed said, and I've been there too, there are times you feel like throwing in the towel. I'm like, why am I doing this? My God, it's just so painful sometimes. And that's okay. That's part of the growth process. And so one of the things I wondered, Reed, what's your advice to entrepreneurs out there who are trying to do everything right and are literally afraid of making mistakes along the way?
Oh, it's the biggest, I think, barrier to actually just getting off the fence and getting going, right? It's that fear of not knowing. Trust me, that is one of the biggest muscles you've got to flex. This whole journey of what you embark on in life to go down and change your life and go maybe start a business or trying to become an entrepreneur, there is going to be a lot of unknowns, and you have to be comfortable with knowing that, okay, what are these unknowns, and playing them out in your mind. And like, okay, if I fail at this, what is the alternative? For me, when I first moved to the United States, it was, okay, I really just had a vision to move here as an expat, live for a couple of years and move back to Australia. When I first moved here, I had that sort of 3 or 4 month period to get a job. Well, the worst case scenario was that if I didn't work out, I'll just be back on a plane, I'll go back to Australia and I'll get another engineering job. And if I'm okay with that, and that's the worst thing that can happen, well, hey, life's pretty freaking good, isn't it? So being comfortable with that, being okay that you don't have all the answers, or at least you don't know what the outcomes are going to be, you have to get very good at least surrendering to that and giving yourself permission to go move forward, not knowing what the next or the final step might be or the outcome might be. But the fact that you're putting one foot in front of the other and taking action is the success in which you're getting it going. And because at the end of the day, it might fail, it might go belly up, but that you have to be okay with that. And that's the beauty and the sacrifice we make as entrepreneurs, building our own businesses, paving our way, forging our way through life as entrepreneurs, to enjoy the journey, because the journey is part of what the success is all about when you do eventually, quote unquote, reach the top. So yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And Steve Harvey actually wrote a book about Jump, where he's talking about, taking that leap of faith. And again, you could hit the cliff on the way down and bounce off of it. But there's that cord you can pull, and the parachute will be there, and
right.
You will land safely. It's just about it is about taking risk. They're calculated risks. You're doing it with your eyes wide open. It's getting over the resistance, the hesitation to just say yes when you know it's right. And you have all these little voices. I like to think of those little devils that pop up on the cartoons, and they've given you all this bad advice saying, no, you can't do it. And all the other negative things that come. Those are your limiting beliefs that are cropping up. And it's a beautiful thing when you're able to just kind of smack them off your shoulder and say, I'm going forward, and I'm not even going to analyze the situation too heavily. I'm going to make a decision just to go forward. I can't tell you, Reed, when I began learning to do that and started doing it, then things changed fast in a great way.
Right.
And was it scary? Hell yes. But now looking back, I love it. I do it over and over. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to add that it's nearly like a mental push-up, right? When you do test that boundary and you get to that edge and you think, geez, I can't jump, but you do it, a small thing. You change jobs, or you move cities, or you just maybe get a new haircut. I don't know what it might be, but that scaredness that you have, you got to test it every day, and you get used to pushing those boundaries. When you get used to pushing that boundary, it's like that mental push-up. You go, okay, I'm here again. I feel uncomfortable, but let's go forward because I know it's the right thing, because my gut is telling me to go forward, not necessarily my brain, which is the reptilian brain. It's going, hey, don't do that. You're going to hit those cliffs on the way down. So it's listening to a little bit more of the gut and knowing that you can move forward. So
I like to say the voice of reason isn't always. It is like a learned trait. It's something you want to get in the habit of doing. And again, find a mentor to help you with that. There are great mind processes you can go through, like I have, called neuro-linguistic programming, NLP for short, that have literally changed my life. And I don't say that lightly about anything, that really help push you to get you going and on the path of a Reed Goossens faster than you could ever imagine. I kid you not. And it's all about the mind. Everything we have today, everywhere, anything we've achieved is 100% our own fault. It's up to us. We made the decisions. We let others control us. I'm talking about myself as well here. So there's no finger pointing going on here. Where you are today is 100% your cause. You are the reason you are where you are at today. When would now be the right time to change what's going on in that beautiful brain of yours for the better, so that you can achieve greatness like Reed and, have a great accent like him too.
You can also learn that as well.
Oh, so he has acting school as well. This is cool. So one of the three, mind, we've been hammering on mind, but it is that important. And I appreciate you taking that much time, Reed, to hammer on it, because it's a foundation of our success or lack thereof, in my humble opinion. And let's move into body.
Sure.
You look pretty fit. From Australia. You're not in your prime youth years anymore, but you don't look like you're out of those years. So that means you're taking care of yourself. So for you, how has it impacted you to take care of yourself from a physical standpoint? How has it impacted you both on a business level and even a personal level?
So being physically active and fit, growing up, my dad, for the longest period of time, wanted me to stay in team sports, and that it sort of built leadership, but it also built grit. Being in team sports, I used to play rugby growing up, surfing. Being physical in my daily life is so important, in those lessons that you learn from playing team sports when you're young. It sort of is ingrained in you to when you get older, to know that I need to, if I don't work out for a day or two, I start to get a little stir crazy. I nearly use today, in my mid-30s, I use working out as sort of my anchor just to help start the day. So I use it nearly like a meditation. And that's come from, years since I was a little kid, doing things repetitively, being part of team sports, going to training, the feeling that you get when you push yourself off the ground and you go make another tackle, or you're so exhausted, you left everything out on the field. And that there helps with the subconscious. We talked, about mind before, but being physically active is really important for me. And if I don't have it in my day, I feel like I'm not on the straight and narrow, if that makes sense. So physical activity, whether it's running or swimming or surfing or going to the gym or yoga or whatever you do, for me at least, is something that I have to do as a ritual every single day and every single week.
Yeah, it's amazing when you don't, you notice it, you feel it, you sense it, you got to have it. It's almost like the best addiction you could ever develop.
Yes, it is. Right? 100%.
the side effects are incredible.
It is incredible, and I think it allows you to have that. And a lot of people talk about morning miracles and all that sort of stuff, but I'm definitely, I can't work out at the end of the day, or at least I've tried to. I'm just too tired physically. But in the mornings, I get up and I can just eat that green tree frog, or whatever that saying is. You get it done in the mornings. You sweat, you work out hard, and then that's done for the day, and you can get on with your day back into the business side, which is super important to start the day off on the right foot.
You mentioned a word when you were describing playing sports, and that was repetition.
Mm-hmm.
And I often use that when it comes to business. And I always say repetition is the key to mastery. And I think it's true in anything. Think of the greatest athletes on the planet, like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and the like, that they just repeated and practiced over and over and over the same shot over. And then they move to another one and do hundreds and thousands of shots from another, practice dribbling over and over and over. So is it any different on a business front, Reed, or
No.
Are we okay? Do we just do it once and we're good?
No, it again goes back to that trained repetition brings around a sort of innate sixth or seventh sense, like you to do something consistently on a daily basis. When you don't do it, from whether it be working out or meditation or going for a walk or having that particular orange juice you like of a morning, that repetition starts to build in the subconscious. And so you'll when you don't do it, you crave it, because you're like, hey, hang on, I haven't done that thing today that I usually do. And I feel off, and my day's off for some reason. So repetition helps with the day, starting the day if you do it in the mornings, or helps with a goal towards the end of the night if you're doing it in the evenings. But it helps you make sure that you are on track towards your goals, because you do things over and over again. It becomes part of who you are, becomes part of your DNA. And then you can go out and be successful day in, day out, because you're doing these small repetitive motions or tasks or certain things in the day that you need to do. And if you do that repetitively over a long period of time, it will start moving the needle towards your goals. So, yeah.
And a key there is be careful what you choose to do repetitively.
Yes.
And I would venture to but state that if a person out there is not successful today, it's they are currently not making the choices that are serving them the best. And all you have to do is change your choices. Maybe instead of grabbing that donut, grab an apple and just start that quick, that simple. Maybe instead of watching TV, pull out a book from reachyourpeaklibrary.com and read it. You can listen to it on Audible. I was reading last night, sitting with my wife. She's watching a show on TV. I just want to be next to her. I don't care what we're doing. She liked to watch the show, and I was reading next to her. Just change your habits. What are you doing repetitively? Because that is, we all do things by repetition. Humans are of that nature. And so all that means is maybe you need a change. And if you're not at a level of success that you wish to be, that you deserve to be, then that's probably the reason that you haven't picked the right things to repeat over and over. And someone like Reed or even myself can help you with that. But again, when would now be the right time to change that cycle or pattern of repetition that's going on right now? And if you're already crushing it, fantastic. Now go help and serve others. Yes. Hey, Yifat Cohen. I hope I said your first name right. She is on LinkedIn. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate you for being here. Now, speaking of business, the third pillar of success, and so many skill sets that are necessary to run a business and master the business. I wanted to touch more about what you do yourself, Reese, as a business. What is it in a detailed level? You talked about real estate. We talked about it a little bit, but I think what you have is quite an ingenious model for others to follow and or to get involved with you. So if you don't mind, tell me and our viewers, what is Wildhorn Capital all about? What do you guys do?
Yeah, well, so we buy large commercial assets, typically apartment buildings. And when I say we, my business partner and I, we invite or allow investors to come on board and partner with us on these deals. So the analogy that I always like to use is, it's called real estate syndication, but the analogy I use is like an airplane, right? So if I, Reed Goossens, goes and try and hire a Boeing 747, and I can't do it now because of COVID, but if I was to be able to go and hire it by myself and get from New York to LA, it would cost me a lot of money as an individual. However, if I go and split the cost of hiring that Boeing 747 with other folks, I can, we can all get from point A to point B, which in our case in real estate is going from having investing money to having a good return on investment, which is point B. And we can all share the cost. Like the plane analogy, we'll have a captain and a co-pilot, which is usually my business partner and I. We have people sitting in first class, which might be people who have helped the deal come together. They might have found the deal. We might have underwritten the deal together. And then everyone back in coach is enjoying the in-flight entertainment, and they're enjoying the ride of being in this Boeing 747, but they've only paid a portion of the cost. And so really, we just pool investors' money together. We go out and buy larger assets that we can't take down on our own. And so it is called real estate syndication, or OPM, other people's money. And you can apply syndication to any business, any business that needs funding. And really, it's people who don't have the time or the energy to go out and find what I call Kraken real estate deals, partnering with business owners like myself, which happens to be in the world of real estate, and we form a partnership together. And so overall, real estate syndication, we have about, at Wildhorn, we have nearly 2,000 units, about $250 million of assets under management. And we buy buy distressed assets. We bring them, we give them a facelift, and we increase the cash flow of the asset. And through that, we're able to increase the value of the asset. And the investors, along all this period of time, are not lifting a finger, and they're enjoying the benefits of having a cash flowing asset. They're involved in real estate, and their money is growing for them. They're getting cash flow along the way, and then we try to grow their money over a period of 3 to 5 years. And then we usually sell the asset, and they get a good return on their money, and everyone's happy. And we try and rinse and repeat that over again. So yeah, that's it. That's really in a nutshell what we do at Wildhorn Capital.
And one of the things that is so genius about this business model, in my humble opinion, is that you, the ringleader, so to speak, you have skin in the game yourself.
Correct.
You are investing in the same properties as those that you're bringing with you. I love that analogy of the airplane. That was beautiful. Even people in coach, they can rest assured the captain in the front doesn't want that plane to dive and go the place it shouldn't go. He wants it to reach its destination, land, and everybody kiss the ground out of gratitude. And I love that, because since you have skin in the game, that really, it's so different than someone who throws money at an investment in stocks. And so the broker takes the money, earns their commission, really could care less if, I'm sure some do care, if it goes well or not, because they earned their money, they're done. With you have a vested interest in seeing this through and making sure you did all of the upfront work that was necessary to determine if you felt this was going to be a good investment, or you wouldn't have done it yourself.
Right, exactly.
Because you would lose money. And now you're bringing people with you. I think this is genius, because as a person, that would be sitting in first class or coach, I'm thinking, man, this is awesome. The captain's got he's got our goodwill at the front of his mind, because our goodwill is his goodwill.
Well, it's also reputation, right? Like my business is my brand, is my personal brand. People invest in me first and foremost. They actually invest in the deal secondarily. So when I was starting in this business, I had to show people that I knew what I was doing, that I had a background in structural engineering, and that people could trust me. And that's whenever you go out and raise capital from other people to start whatever the business might be, people are going to invest in you first and foremost. You need to come with professionalism. You need to come with a great pitch. You need to make sure that you have a great idea, or you've found a really great Kraken deal if you're in real estate. And show the investors all the different scenarios that can happen and why they would want to invest alongside you. And at the end of the day, you're not asking them for money. You're offering them an opportunity to invest their hard-earned cash that they don't have the time or the energy to go out and find better deals than just putting their money in the stock market. So really, it goes back to reputation, which is for me and first and foremost. And people are investing in me. They're giving me I'm the custodian of their capital, and they want to make sure that I do a good bloody job of it. So yeah.
So what's the typical point of liquidity, if that's the right term? Like how long, what is an average investment stay? Yep. Is it 3 years? Is it 3 months?
It's typically 3 to 5 years. Depends. These are longer hold assets. You're investing in a hard asset. It's unlike investing in the stock market. It's a paper asset, but it's very liquid, right? In real estate, it's a hard asset and it's illiquid. So you're really investing in your retirement funds. You're investing excess cash that you want to grow over a period of time, and that's typically between 3 to 5 years. every quarter, investors get cash flow from the asset or dividends, and then they own profits once we share the asset, sell the asset, I should say, whenever that might be, whether 5, 6, 7 years time. So it is a longer term play, but again, with all investing, you should be investing. There's no get rich quick. You need to be investing for the long term, and we're in the business of planting seeds, and hopefully those seeds grow into oak trees, and we can all sit under the shade one day in the future. So yeah.
I resonate with that. I mean, I have no problem with it being a long-term play, because if it's not, then I would have question marks over the top of my head right now, literally,
right.
And a red flag waving on top of that. And the thing is, that's the way it works in the real world with business as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'm trying to remember the gentleman's name, but a very prominent gentleman made a statement about just podcasting. You know, podcasting is the rage, the audio version where people just interview, record it, and then put it up on a podcast later. And many people are jumping on that bandwagon. And he said so properly and aptly, and I know this because I've been doing this show nearly 2 years, and I had one prior to this several years ago, before Facebook even existed, if you can imagine that. But he made a statement that if you're not going to commit 100% consistently for 2 years minimum, then his recommendation was do not even get started.
Right.
And I wanted to reach out and shake his hand and say thank you, because I have been down this path, and I know that that is very true. And it could take longer than 2 years if you're not going about it the right way. So anything, like you said, anything that's in life that's worthy is going to take time.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. We have Eliza from the Philippines. Welcome, Eliza. International show, the Mind Body Business Show. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on and saying hi. Appreciate you. And everyone on LinkedIn, appreciate you as well. I'm loving this conversation because here's what I've learned on this show, Reed. It doesn't matter what people do. If they're coaches, if they own a fitness studio, if they're in real estate, the keys to success are always the same.
Correct.
Every single time. And I get the most out of the show than anybody, because it's like hammering it hard into my being I will never let go of knowing what the keys are to success. And because of that, I've been able to achieve great success of my own right. And that's all you have to do. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the whole purpose of this show. Listen to this man and then model him. I was going to say copy. Model is a fancy word for copy. And the reason I hesitated on copy, growing up, you tell me, Reed, if you were in like the equivalent of grade school back in the day in Australia, and if you're taking a test and you're scribbling on your test, and your mate next to you is, does really good on tests, and you happen to look over there to see what their answers were, would that be okayed by the teacher?
Well, it's hard to say at that stage, yes, but I've definitely learned that abundance of mindset is really important. So sharing, you could copy me. Go ahead, try and emulate what I've done, and you're going to come up with slightly different results. That's okay, right? But I'm okay if people wanted to copy, because they're never going to be exactly me, Reed Goossens. It's because it's my story, it's my life, and you can't. You're not going to be exactly Brian Kelly. You're not going to do it exactly the same way. But you've got to take the tips and advice that we give on these types of shows and in the books that Brian's recommended and go and do something with it, because you can copy it, but you're going to have a different outcome ultimately, because you're a different person.
And the thing I was driving at is copy back then had a negative connotation, because we think of going back to school where you should never copy. That's cheating, right? And then as we become adults, that's the very thing you need to do to become successful.
Right.
And that is to find somebody that has achieved a level of success that you desire, and then model them. So that's why I use the word model. Mm-hmm. Is basically follow their patterns, copy what works. It doesn't mean become a clone of them. My God, that'd be scary if there was another one of me out there. I wouldn't get along at all. It's about doing what they do. All you have to, so here it is. It's like a recipe book. You have a recipe for a cake. I've never made a cake in my life. I am not kidding. And it will display the ingredients. I can go buy those. Good. I know how to do that. I have an oven. I know to turn the dial to a certain number. I know I can put these ingredients. If I just follow the recipe, the step-by-step instructions, I'm pretty certain the outcome will be pretty successful if I follow them to a T. And with business, it's no different. If you have a recipe for success, like this gentleman, then all you have to do is follow that recipe. And your certainty of knowing that you're going to come out the other side with something better than you had when you started is 99.9%.
Right.
Because if you just follow the instructions, if you just follow someone else who's achieved that level of success you desire and deserve, then that's all there is to it. I make it sound simple. It's not. But that gives you the certainty and the path to follow instead of trying to do it yourself and reinvent the wheel, which so many, including yours truly, have done for years. So that's my soapbox moment. What's yours?
No, I completely agree. I think that we get back to the mindset thing. We get too over analysis paralysis. We get in our own head. You know that saying, you get in your own head because you constantly churning over the options of what's going to happen if I take this. You know, what are people going to think? What happens if it fails? What happens if my kids don't respect me or I get laughed at? You know, like there's all these things. And again, the reptilian brain of just like, I'm too afraid to put myself out there. I'm too afraid to take that next leap of faith. That is all the things that are going to hold you back in life, that you're not going to then look back and think, geez, even though I did have a go at it, I mean, if you did fail, it's okay. Like, because if the fact is you gave it a go. And that's, for me at least, as a person, I like uncertainty, and I like the fact that I'm driven by a fear of missing out, or the fear of not giving it a go, or the fear of regret. So we all have the same issues, and we're nothing different. So yeah.
And that's why entrepreneurship is not for everybody. You know,
no, it's not.
I'm also driven by that uncertainty factor, because with the flexibility that we've learned over the years and the problem solving skills and everything else, we know that it's nothing more than a challenge that we are going to succeed at.
Correct.
It's already a done deal. It's just the thrill of the process of getting there.
Yes, exactly. And that's the process of enjoying the journey, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, my goodness, were we separated at birth somehow, and you got pulled over to Australia, and I'm
different. Brother from another mother, right, mate?
Yeah, and I'm the much older twin, but oh goodness, this is a lot of fun. Okay, there is one on the business aspect. There is one that I love to ask, a question I love to ask. I am so deeply curious about this, genuinely, for each of my guests that comes on, because there is this thing called marketing that we must all, if we don't succeed at marketing, then we have no business, period. It is the lifeblood of our business, is getting eyeballs to what we do, getting ears to what we do, to getting exposure is what it comes down to. And to date, I know you've probably gone through multiple, if you're anything like me, you've gone through multiple different avenues of marketing. There's so many different ways to market. There's direct mail, there's social media advertising, there's paid ads, there's newspaper, it just goes on and on and on. There's live shows. What has been to date for you, Reed, the most successful form of marketing for your business?
My podcast, 100%.
Wow.
My podcast. It's been going for 4.5 years, to over 200 episodes, interviewed everyone about the world of real estate. There's only so much real estate you can talk about in 4.5 years, but over time we now build it to entrepreneurs and business owners and CEOs who built something from nothing. But the thing was, when I first started that, it was taking, again, another bet on myself. And again, I'm a structural engineer. I have a very black and white brain. I had none of this creativity thing going on, but it was backing myself that I had a story to tell. And having a story to tell is really important to help you with your marketing message, to help you attract the right type of folk to want to do business with, right? Not everyone's going to like your story. Not everyone's going to resonate with you. Not everyone, that's okay. But use your story in order to attract the right type of people, in order to attract that you want to do business with, right? Because that is what ultimately we want to do. We don't want to do business with, excuse my language, dickheads. We want to do business with people that think like us, right? So having a good story is what will attract people to you. And when the statement I said before about in my investment company, people invest in me and first and foremost, well, they invest in me because they like me. They like and trust me. They like my story. They like what I have to say. They understand that I'm down to earth. They understand that I'm trustworthy and I'm transparent. All those things have come through my story, through my podcast, through talking with other entrepreneurs about their journey, having yarns, or we call it yarning in Australia, which is just conversations. And those are the little tidbits in providing information via a podcast that can help people get comfortable with who I am and want to ultimately invest with me down the line. So yeah.
totally resonate 100% with that. As you and I were talking just before we started the show, that is right down the same path. That, you know, for me, the same thing. The show coming up on 2 years, and I didn't know this would happen, but it became an amazing lead magnet.
Mm-hmm.
People are coming out of the woodwork asking me to help them to do what I do. And it's amazing, and it's mind blowing, and it's phenomenal, and it works. If you just stay consistent and persistent. I mean, 4 years on a podcast, so you surpassed the 2. Now everybody can listen and understand. It takes commitment, and it takes a long commitment.
But here's the other thing I'll say to that. Not only does it take commitment, but now it acts for me, and I'm sure like your podcast and your show acts for you, is that you get to talk to the best in the business. It's not trying to toot my own home, but I get to talk to the best in the business, and I'm on the same wavelength, right? And it nearly acts like a coach. It nearly acts like I can ask questions of the guests that I interview about specific topics or tips about how they've done certain things in their business, and I'll be able to retain that information in order to use it in my own business. Yes. And so it nearly is. It comes to me like I know when I sometimes jump off my podcast, my wife's like, "God, have you just taken drugs?" He's like, "No, I've just been on this awesome podcast talking about these cool things because I've been on the same wavelength." But back to sort of the advice for the listeners is that your goal should be not necessarily to be the next Tony Robbins, right, or to be the next Brian Kelly. It is to be a key person of influence or a person of influence in your sphere, so people come to you first when you're the top of mind. And so, like, again, I'm a real estate investor. You may never have heard of me. You probably never have heard of me. But the fact is I got 600 or 700 people following me, and they've heard of me, and they love what I do, and they love the content I put out, and that's all I need to grow my business, right? And they've got 600 or 700 investors that want to invest in every single deal that I want to do. Well, what are your 600 and 700 people, followers, who are your tribe, that love everything you say and everything you do, and they will buy things from you, whatever your widget is, they will come and use your services, they may invest with you, whatever that might be. But it all happens through creating good story and leading with education, which is really, really important, which is what you do on this show, which is what I do on my show. And people can use that education to help to get to know you, but also to help maybe better themselves, like we're talking about right now with the mind and the business and the body. So all these things put into a pot, back into the recipe analogy, you boil up a big soup, and you've got to be consistent with it. And it turns out to be an incredible thing. And I get to meet incredible people like yourself, Brian, each and every day, which is freaking awesome. So, yeah.
And it's a tasty soup, I got to tell you. It is so good. I'm tasting it. Oh, it just tastes so good. Man, so much great stuff. And you're so right. There's so much more than what people would perceive on the surface of benefits from having your own show or podcast. And you're so right. I have learned an immeasurable amount of great things from my past guests. One, I implemented in my business shortly after we actually did the show. And it was from a gentleman who talked about how he interviewed people. Mm-hmm. And he required that each applicant submit a video of themselves telling his company why they deserve to be his next employee. This is genius. And so I implemented this, and I put it at the end of my application form, and it's all automated. As you know, Reed, I like automation. And they must submit that video within 3 days of completing the application form, or my system automatically kicks them out and tells them, sorry, you don't fit. And I don't have to worry about it. I'm done. I may not even know they came through the system. It's okay with me. Those that do go through, Reed, holy moly, the highest quality I have ever seen, ever. It is, and just from one tip that I got from having a guest like yourself, that's awesome. Incredible value. And we have a wonderful. I love this question coming up. It's right down the strike zone here of podcast. Jason Anderson, who was just a guest on the show. How you doing, Jason? Says, what's your strategy for getting the right kind of podcast guests? That is a great question.
For me?
Hey, Reed. Yes, for you.
Look, in the beginning, it was just my mum and my grandma listening to me. So I was trying to get everyone. I was trying to get as many people on the show as possible. But obviously, the big thing, not obviously, maybe it's not obvious, is to try and get other bigger names that you either know or have a direct contact through that can get on the show. So you can say, hey, had XYZ on the show, and then that means that the next person you pitched about being a guest, they were like, oh, that person was on the show. Okay, I'll come on the show. Now, 4 years later, I've got to fend off people with a stick and I've had to put, like yourself with the videos, I have to put certain criteria in place because I don't just want to talk to the average newbie. I love the newbie story and stuff, but sometimes when you want to take your podcast to the next level, you need a better quality of guest who's going to be able to have a conversation, who's articulate, and just sometimes when you don't have that vetting process, things can slip through the cracks. So now I work with a couple of really handy podcast valet is one company that I use quite a lot, and I say no to a lot of people because they don't meet a certain criteria. I'm also developed my own sort of little system of making sure I'm vetting the right people. For people to get on my show right now, you have to be managing or owning over $1 million worth of real estate or more, because that's just the limit, or revenue in a business. Because I know at least if you got to that point, you would have had some skins on your knees, you would have had some sort of trials and tribulations. So you've got a little bit more of a good story to tell. Back to that story. So yeah, it's a work in progress, and I'm sure in years to come I'll have a different process. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
I think it's a great strategy. Did you say Podcast LA?
Podcast Valet with
Valet,
a V.
gotcha.
Valet. Yeah.
I love to learn these new resources. I use something called Podcast Guests, but like you, I don't need it anymore. Booked all the way through August, and Jason knows my strategy, and I'm more than happy to share it with folks. And that is, and you'll be privy to this read after the show's over, is that I ask each guest after the show's over for referrals. Mm-hmm. Typically, I don't charge anybody to appear on this show, even though it is broadcast streaming seven platforms simultaneously, 25 podcasts. By the end of tonight, it will be on 25 podcast platforms, iTunes, Spotify, you name them, it's in there. Even Pandora, the music app, iHeartRadio, and elsewhere, all over the place. And all I ask is for three things, or one thing in return, and that is 3 referrals. And I give it like this: that a person you know personally that is either as successful or even more successful than you are, if you can imagine that. So I put a little humor in there. And then 3, you think might possibly be interested in coming on the show. They don't have to absolutely say yes. And if they do that, I will give them a gift in return. And that's it. And that's my strategy, and it's worked phenomenally because now I've got someone like you, and the bar keeps going up, 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 up. I don't know how we can go any higher than you, Reed, but I'm still going to reach for it. Still going to reach for it.
Not going to be able to walk out of the room with my big head right now.
And the funny thing is, I started out the same way you did. I also interviewed your grandmother and parents.
I'm sure they're just as good, right?
They told me I was a better host, but
family. Got it.
I'm kidding, totally. I love this. Holy smokes, 6. We are getting close to the end. I love this. So it sounds like you used to work at a JOB for a corporation at some point in life. Now looking back, if you could put it in one word, how would you characterize yourself? How would you characterize your life as an entrepreneur in one word?
As one word, how would I characterize my life? I would characterize my life. I know this is. I'm just trying to buy more time here to think about it. Is incredible is a word that comes to mind, but I think it's got to be more than just incredible. It is game changing. I think that's really 2 words. It's really game changing in terms of the way I even view the world right now. Like the journey that you go on about learning about the business of real estate and how you value assets and how you can go create value from thin air. That is now, I can apply those adages to not even real estate business, just to other businesses and to other opportunities. And so the blinkers has kind of come off. So the game changing is that the blinkers do come off, and you realize that you sort of were looking at a soapbox like this, and then all of a sudden they fall away. And honestly, the world is literally your oyster. And no matter where you walk, it's a gold mine. There's an opportunity over there. There's an opportunity over there. The problem you have now, what I have now, is that you get the shiny object syndrome, right? There's too many opportunities you see. And so you've got to be, an inch wide and a mile deep in terms of your expertise. But it's game changing. I think is the biggest word.
I love it. I've heard a lot of great words on that: liberation, freedom. Yeah, and all of them are correct. There isn't any that's not correct. It's very personal too.
Exactly. But,
yep. For others, it could be mind numbing or crushing or struggle. It depends on where you're at in your current walk.
Yes.
And if those are terms you're using to describe it, you may want to consider something else, to be honest, because even through the tough times, you need to maintain that positive, forward-driven attitude, in my humble opinion. Goodness sakes, we're coming up at the end here, Reed. I don't like this time, but we must cross that bridge. And there's one final question that I love to ask every guest that's come on this show. It's a very deep question. And I love how you were searching for that answer for the last one. You may do the same for this one too, and that's okay. Just know it's okay. It's kind of deep. It's very personal, not deep personal, but you know what I mean. It's unique to each individual. How's that? In a personal way. Before we do that, before I ask you that final question, I did promise those who stayed on to the end one special thing, and that was how to enter to win a 5-night stay at a 5-star luxury resort. And this is coming to us compliments of the Big Insider Secrets, wonderful company, a dear friend of mine who heads up that company, who has offered this to our show, and we do this every single week. So you now have both Reed and my permission to grab this thing called a cell phone, if you're not already watching on it, and bring up your texting app. And to enter, all you need to do is, when you want to type in the person you're going to text to, instead type that phone number. Type in 661-535-1624, and down where you would actually enter your message, maybe an emoji or two. No emojis here. Just type in the word PEAK, P-E-A-K, and then tap on that little send icon. Again, you want to send this to the number 661-535-1624, and then type in the word PEAK, P-E-A-K. Send that text message off right now. We will randomly select a winner, and we will announce it by texting you back. We will gather your information, and then we'll also shout you from the rooftops on social media platforms and say congratulations. And now all of your friends will be envious that you are going to be the first one traveling outside of your hometown once this whole thing lifts. Isn't that amazing? All right. So you've had time to mull it over now, Reed. I'm sure the curiosity has, I see a sweat bead on the head.
It's getting there. It's getting there.
So here's the thing with this question. There is no such thing as a wrong answer when it comes down to it. And it's just the opposite for you, Reed. The only correct answer is yours because it's unique to you. Sound cool?
That's cool. Let's do it.
All right. We're going to close with this question, but stick with us because I'm going to let everybody in on how to contact this amazing dude right here. So maybe you can have a chat and see if there's some way you could work with him and invest with him or learn from him. All right. So before we do that, though, here we go. Reed Goossens, how do you define success?
How do I define success? I resonate with a quote that's not mine. I think it is Mr. Robbins, the T. Robbins, that is, and that is really my definition of success is around my what I exchange time for. Right, time is an asset I never can get back. So, doing what I want, when I want, with whom I want, as much as I want, is the definition of success for me in my life today, and what really drives me, because I really want a life by design. The reason I got into business is to not exchange time for money. I want to live my life on my terms. So that quote from Tony Robbins is really one that resonates with me, and still is my North Star today.
Oh, I love that. Still my North Star. This is awesome. And it's a phenomenal answer. Here's the really cool thing, Reed. I have done this. We're approaching 100 shows. We're somewhere around there. And no two people have answered that the same way, like identically. And the other part is because of the level of success that my guests have, no one ever mentions or focuses on the primary part of success having anything to do with money.
Right. Yep.
One did mention money, but it was because money liberated him to do what you just said. So it wasn't the end reason. It was a means to the end, right?
Right. And that's all it is, right?
And please recognize, everyone watching and listening, money is important. If you don't put importance on money, then you will not succeed. It is that simple. It must be important in your life. It's just not the most important aspect. As I have been interviewing many people like Reed, none of them focus on money as being their definition of success. And you'll go through this. You'll go through the different stages. In the beginning, it's more of a scarcity mentality. I've been there. Reed's been there. Mm-hmm. And money is more in our focus, and because we need it to build and to grow. And then as we grow, we look at, how do I serve more people? How do I help more people? How do I free myself to do what I want, when I want, where I want? Everything Reed just said. And so it's amazing. I love asking that question. So before we call it a night, I wanted to open it up for you, Reed, real quickly to say, how can folks get a hold of you? I'm going to pull up your website while I do that and turn it over to you, my man.
The quickest way to get in contact with me, head to my website, redgoossens.com. You can probably see it on the screen. There is an Invest With Me tab, or button, I should say, or a Work With Me button. Click on either one of those. It can get directly to my inbox. If you ever are coming through LA and you want to meet up for a beer or a coffee or just talk shop, you can email me at info, that's info @redgoossens.com. Just give me a little bit of a heads up before you come, and we'll make it happen. A
heads up? Come on, I just want to drop in. I mean, got to find out where you are to begin with. So
exactly.
Fantastic. So yeah, definitely reach out to Reed and look at what options are available to you. If you don't want to take yourself down that path of learning how to invest in properties, why do that when you can leverage the brilliance of Reed and his team and the other investors that are going along with this? So you won't be alone. That's another great thing about it, that I think it's a genius concept. I just love it. It's fantastic. And I appreciate you, Reed, for spending all this time with us tonight, getting the word out about success and how to achieve it, how to model it. What are the aspects that are necessary? And you've hit them all, and you've got them all. And there's an obvious reason why you are where you are today. And so I just appreciate you, my friend. And I can't wait to meet you in person once this whole thing lifts, because I'm not too far away from you geographically. So that'll be fun.
Awesome, man. Well, look, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's a real pleasure and honor to come on such a very professionally run show, must I add. So you do a cracking job. So well done, big fella.
Cracking. Oh, man, I love that term. That must be Australian.
It is. Give it a crack.
I love it. It's kind of like crikey.
Yeah, crikey, crack. Yeah, exactly.
All right. And we like to have fun too. That's another thing I'll part with on this show is don't forget to have fun in life. I mean, what is life worth living if you can't have fun, or if you don't have fun? So make sure you have fun along the way. Don't take everything so seriously. You know, there's a time for being serious, and I have told my kids this many times, and that time is rare, in my opinion. Have a good time. Enjoy life. Be serious when you need to grow your business, definitely. And then enjoy it. Enjoy it with your family, your friends, your colleagues, and people like this guy, where I'm going to have coffee with really soon. All right. On behalf of this amazing gentleman, Reed Goossens, this is Brian Kelly, your host of the Mind Body Business Show. We will see you again next week. Until then, be blessed, everyone. So long.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for watching and listening. This has been the Mind Body Business Show with Brian Kelly.